Gazora, Ganimet, Kamoebas, giant monsters of the South Seas! Or as some people in the US call it, Yog the Space Monster! Or as what we call it, Space Amoeba. Terrifying tropical extraterrestrial seafood ruins the island vacation of Japanese Charlie Sheen and his band of Toho acting legends. There's so many classic people behind and in front of the camera for this movie. And it also marked the end of a lot of those people's careers. What I don't necessarily understand is that a lot of people hate this movie.
Yeah, I don't see why. It's got, the who's who. It has more than one monster in it.
I am completely and totally a biased son of a bitch because I remember going to Walgreens and finding Yog the Space Monster on VHS, and that's how I became enamored with it as a kid.
But I didn't have any nostalgia. You showed this movie to me like a year ago.
Right.
I liked it then. And then the other day when we were trying to figure out which movie to review, I picked this one.
Sure.
So and I liked it again. So I think it's a good movie.
You want to try to take a crack at it?
So a spaceship is going to a moon in Jupiter, and it runs into a space amoeba called Yog, apparently.
Isn't Brian just the most, captivating son of a bitch you've ever seen in your life?
I told you it takes me a minute.
Isn't it just great? I mean, so there's this spaceship going to Jupiter.
But why is it going
with
to Jupiter
Yog?
again?
Because it's a fucking space probe.
I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Why else would they shoot a probe out?
I don't know. Do they ever call it Yog?
That was the American title.
It figures. So there's a space amoeba. Hitches a ride on a spaceship back to Earth.
And it comes crashing down at the very beginning. And that's when we're introduced to Akira Kubo's character, aka Japanese Charlie Sheen. Japanese Charlie Sheen is a photographer, and he meets up with, apparently this guy, he was an actor that was in a bunch of other movies, and he's one of these classic guys, but he looks like Japanese Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
Oh! There's an island we need to see!
There's gonna be amoebas and turtles and
even a giant crab! Ah!
Japanese Pee Wee Herman assigns Akira Kubo to go take pictures of this island because they want to set up hotels, and he's joined by a cute Japanese chick, a professor, and this sleazeball played by Kenji Sahara.
There's always a sleazeball.
And there's always a sleazeball. Within the first 10 minutes, all of a sudden it turns out that this island paradise is actually being ruined by giant kaiju!
Ah!
Specifically the first one, which is a giant cuttlefish.
Giant cuttlefish. When was the last time you guys saw that one?
Yeah, when's the first time you saw that one? Gazora.
Derpy, but I liked it. I like the fact that it's different.
I've never really understood the hate for it. There's been pretty derpy designs with the Tsuburaya end of things. I mean, both of his versions of Kong.
Yeah, those were pretty bad. They worship it as a god on the island,
well,
right?
It's mistaken as a god because the fucking leftover tribespeople from King Kong vs. Godzilla and Mothra are there needing to, praise something. And I think they even use the same music. You're a giant cuttlefish that we really, really love. Gazora! Gazora! Anyways.
Yog!
Why? It's not Yog. That's what they call it in the American dub.
We're American.
Yeah,
it's
but we're
Yog.
not calling it. We're being weeaboos. So Yog.
Yog.
In this particular movie, too, what's different, I think, it plays more along the lines of Frankenstein Conquers the World or the Gargantuas.
The size of the monster.
The size of the monsters.
They can actually target the humans. They can see the humans on the ground and go after them.
Which is nice because, it's so much different than a force of nature coming crashing through a city. It just offers a different set of storytelling plot points, basically, and I think it's kind of cool because we don't really have a lot of that. We end up finding out in the story is that this space amoeba, if you will,
Yog!
this space amoeba thing infects animals, and what's neat about it is it blows them up to obviously monstrous size. But these animals are not super powered. The way that these monsters are taken out, in my opinion, is one of the more interesting things. We can get to that in a second. He attacks this one little hut thing with this native named Rico. They find Rico in the ruins, And he's like completely fucking shell-shocked through like 95% of the movie, right? But the thing that I noticed was that the look that he had on his face for those 95 minutes was the same exact look that Brian had when we went to go see Cats.
I was also shell-shocked from that.
And we all say, hey, now I never have you ever met a man as magical Mr. Mangopoulos. Hey, never have you ever met a man as magical Mr. Mangopoulos. Yog! You like this movie better than Cats though, right?
Oh, light years ahead of Cats.
Okay.
I like Godzilla Raids Again better than Cats.
Wow.
Because at least in Godzilla Raids Again, they didn't sing about themselves for 2 goddamn hours.
Humans actually end up fighting against Ghidorah with fire. That's it.
Which I like. I like the fact that there's no giant, Japanese army that comes in with tons
There's
of tanks
no
and
special secret weapons.
These humans
There's
have to fend them off for themselves.
Yeah. Later in the movie, they use outdated World War II technology,
which is
and
awesome.
at the climax of the movie, spoiler alert, it is the sound waves of bats that actually end up ending the alien threat once and for all. It's very War of the Worlds-ish, kind of, in a lot of ways. And this is another thing that is, in my opinion, I can't think of another movie in this era from Toho that did that kind of thing. When Ghidorah gets burned, he gets burned.
It looked painful.
They fried that calamari's ass for sure.
Mamma mia, the calamari is fried!
And then we're introduced to our second monster, Ganimet, who is a giant crab.
I liked it. That was my favorite monster in the movie.
And the battle that they have with the crab is actually really fucking cool. And again, something that we've never seen in another Showa-era Godzilla movie. They fucking blow the thing's eyes out.
Genius.
Popping. And then this thing just fucking crashes down into a ditch. And our homeboy lays off a couple rounds, and then boom! It's like a Tremors explosion. They roast this crab. And again, no military, no secret weapons.
Yeah, they had to figure out on their own how to take care of it.
Typical, it is just civilians using their resources to take it out. Alien microbes actually managed to find their way into our dude, I think it's Obata. But Obata acts as the alien's mouthpiece, and a lot of exposition for the plot comes through him. And they determined that the bats on the island make a very high-pitched frequency that confuses the alien. And they come to find out that the bats are killed. It's the sleazeball guy, though, controlled by the aliens, who's killing all the bats.
But he's got to fight the alien inside of him.
Yeah, and that comes
Which I think is kind of cool.
At the climax.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually we meet up with our third monster, Kamoeba.
Do not like.
I got some quotes right here. And I quote, this is Brian when Kamoeba comes on. It looks stupid. I'm like, well, why does it look stupid? Its tongue. It's not a chameleon, it's a fucking turtle. He's a useless fuck.
I was pouting like that too.
Why is he a useless fuck?
He doesn't do anything in the movie.
Yes, he does.
What does he do?
He chases the people, he fights the fucking crab, he has an elongated neck.
Whoa! I'm glad I was sitting down for the elongated neck part.
We determined that this is the monster that you hate the most now?
I believe so.
I'm really confused by that.
Even Gabra, the walking hemorrhoid, had some sort of purpose. I know everyone in your group is gonna hate me for this.
No, they don't, because nobody likes this movie, so
Well,
it's only gonna be me that hates you for it.
Okay, and I'm used to that. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really going on there. So another Ganimet comes back. This all accumulates into a final fight. Because Obata fights the alien within him, he releases the bats that confuses the monsters, and the monsters revert from being alien controlled to suddenly just being animals. And they start going at it. Amoeba versus Ganimet. And you were not a fan of that fight, were you?
No, I really was not. I remember at one point they were climbing up a volcano.
Yeah, and the volcano comes in, and that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm not a fan of, is it all ends with a volcano! Again! They got rid of the other two monsters in pretty unique ways, so I'll give them the third as a pass. To kill the last of the aliens, Obata throws himself into the volcano, and I wish there was this Raymond Burr narration,
Yes, or him screonking on the way down.
Yeah.
It's a cruel, cruel summer.
Sayonara Gojira! This movie marked a humongous turning point for Toho. It was the last movie that was shot under the old studio system where stars would have contracts and stuff like that. And it marked the end for so many popular actors that had worked for Toho for years. This was the first special effect movie that was done without Issei Tsuburaya, who I think died like 2 days before the movie was supposed to start, or 2 days after it started. There was a request put into Toho to add a in memory of Issei Tsuburaya, and Toho didn't do it. In these books, it said that it was what made Honda leave, and then the other one was like, that's what made Arakawa leave. The way that Tsuburaya was treated was a big thing, and his death and his passing, it affected so many people.
That was a national treasure.
I think overall, this is just a damn entertaining movie.
Yes, agreed.
It's not groundbreaking, but at the same time, I can't call it boring. But I think that in a world where Godzilla's Revenge can be reevaluated as some kind of cinematic masterpiece, the stock footage fest that is Godzilla's Revenge, that for years was lauded as one of the worst, is now suddenly like championed as being one of the best ever. I think that Space Amoeba can find something in there to be celebrated for, you know, because as we've said, it was creative on a whole bunch of different fronts. And it's funny to me how like every movie in the 70s that didn't have Tsuburaya attached to it, the effects were uninspired and unimaginative, and they were bad and they were poor, despite the fact that the budgets were being slashed. These guys weren't being lazy. They weren't trying to be uninspired, you know? And I'm so tired of, if your name's not Tsuburaya, then all of a sudden you just like, you know, completely disregarded. Let's throw Tsuburaya in a situation where he has, you know, a quarter of the budget or half the budget of what he was working with in the 60s and see how well that goes. This movie, honestly, it doesn't do things nearly as bad as I think a lot of people say that it does.
I'd agree with that.
So what we're going to end up trying to do now is we're trying to review a movie a month. Whoa! And this was kind of like the warm-up to get back into the Godzilla stuff. So Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 is going to be refilmed, and hopefully we're going to get that out sooner rather than later because it's just been too long. Well guys, with that said, for Godzilla's sake, keep watching Tokusatsu for the good of mankind and yourselves. I'm Matt.
Brian.
Here to remind you to please, oh please, collect responsibly, and we all say, hey now, ever have you ever met a man as magical Mr. Mangophiles?